Hey everyone, what's up? This is Adam here with Probably Got This, and today I'm bringing you the long-awaited crafting guide in ESO, or at least some people wanted this guide about 2.5 years ago after I made a beginner guide for ESO. I am known as the guy because I didn't write any scripts in my previous videos, so I've gotten a lot better at that, but I think it was kind of comical, some of the comments that were in the last beginner guide. But I'm sorry, I went on a hiatus about 2 years ago, started having a lot of life things happen, and we stopped making videos for a while. But now I'm back on YouTube doing guides and for various games, but mainly ESO and Division 2. So like I mentioned in my beginner guide, ESO is definitely a game where you can get very confused and overwhelmed easily. And so the information out there is pretty scarce, in my opinion, when it comes to going into things very in depth, because there's just a ton of information. So, it takes a while to make an informative guide and into an informative piece of work that can help the community out. So I wanted to bring you guys a crafting guide mainly for beginners, because this is a huge part of the game and it's a huge topic. So I'm not going to be able to cover every single facet of this in this video. So I plan to make an advanced crafting guide for people that really want to pursue this and be master crafters. So first off, we're going to go through all the skill lines of crafting and what you should prioritize. So as you see here, there are 7 skills for crafting. So we've got alchemy, blacksmithing, clothing, enchanting, jewelry crafting, provisioning, and woodworking. Provisioning is cooking, basically. So if you've played RuneScape, shout out to RuneScape players, but basically provisioning is cooking and making drinks and things that give you buffs for battle and everything like that. Enchanting is things that you make glyphs for, so it's for armor, weapons, that make your weapons and armor do specific things, certain abilities that you get for your armor and weapons. Alchemy makes potions and poisons that can be put on your weapons, but potions, being things that give you, again, buffs or heal you or give you better regen for magicka or stamina. And then everything else is pretty self-explanatory. Blacksmithing, makes heavy armor, makes melee weapons. Clothing is the skill that makes medium armor and light armor. And then woodworking makes staves, bows, and shields. And the jewelry crafting is a new addition from Somerset. That is, you can now craft your own jewelry, but that's another bonus that you get with these. So all of these skill lines have similar things to level up. For instance, every single one has an upgrade skill, which allows for a higher up and better material or mats to be used, as you see in blacksmithing. So this one's called metalworking. So basically, every time you level this up, you're able to use a higher tier of material in that skill. So this is maxed out, so that means I can use rubinite ingots, which allows me to use the highest tier of ingots for blacksmithing. And so like for clothing, you have tailoring, and that is ancestor silk and rubinite leather, and so same with woodworking. So we're going to go into blacksmithing for an example and just kind of go down the skills and explain what they are and what you should prioritize. So for example, this has a hireling skill, so it's called the minor hireling, which this will bring mats to you every 24 hours. Mats are materials, so I'm going to refer to materials as mats. That's what people refer to it in the game, so you guys don't get confused. But it'll bring you mats every 24 hours, and sometimes it'll give you high rarity mats as well. It has metal extraction, which allows for better materials to be extracted from deconstructed items. So if you have a higher point value in here, you're going to get a higher chance of getting some good materials when you deconstruct certain, armors and weapons. It has metallurgy, which allows you to speed up research time, which is very important and something you should not forget. So if you have to highlight anything, highlight the skill lines in each of these that increase research time and increase the amount of things you can research at once. And then it has temper expertise. So blacksmithing, woodworking, and clothing all have this. So this gives you double chance of improving items with tempers, and we'll go into that more extensively here later in the guide. But basically, this is something else that's very important that you'll need if you want to become a master crafter. So clothing, jewelry crafting, and woodworking all have the same exact thing, like I said, but they just have different names for them. So, you know, this one is tailoring, this one is unraveling, and this one is tannin expertise, and then woodworking has the same deal, but just different names. And then the support skills, as I would put it, so that's like alchemy, enchanting, jewelry crafting, and provisioning. And jewelry crafting is not really a support skill, but I would consider more provisioning, enchanting, and alchemy to be one. These have similar things as well, but they have a few other different little skill trees that you see in here. Like some of these give you durations for your drinks for provisioning, for example. So it gives you 10 more minutes of any consumed drink. You get 2 extra servings in a meal when you make one. So there's just a few different things in those skill lines, but they all have hirelings and like quality stuff. So just keep that in mind when looking at those skills. Now, what skills should you prioritize within each crafting skill? Because you're probably like, okay, Adam, so I see all of these. I don't know what points to put them into. Is there a right way to do this? Is there not? You know, so what did you do with this? So first off, decide which ones you want to specialize in. So I wanted to specialize in all of them since this character is my main character. And so I'm trying to become a master crafter, which means I can create any craftable item in the game with all the traits. So I started off with doing 4 of the main ones. So blacksmithing, clothing, enchanting, and woodworking. So once you've decided which skills you want to prioritize, you need to put points into hireling for sure, because this will get you materials, and you can never have enough mats. And these necessarily, when I'm telling you to prioritize, so if we look at blacksmithing, I'm not saying that you should, like, some of these are not going to unlock until you get higher levels here, but these are the skills to put points into first. So I would definitely put points into hireling, because like I said, you're going to get mats, and you need mats, and these will give you rare materials as well the more you have in here. I would recommend putting it into metallurgy, whatever the research skill tree right here, or skill node is right here, put it into that, because you need to be able to research items, and you need to be able to do multiples at once. You need to do, obviously, metalworking, because you need to be able to use higher level ingots and materials. Metal extraction is a great thing to have in the beginning of the game as well. So when you get a chance to put a point into that, put a point into that. And then temper expertise is something that you don't necessarily have to worry about until you get later on in the game, just because you're not going to really be like in the early stages of the game, you're not going to be improving your armor an insane amount when you're early on, like making training gear and stuff like that. So I would not prioritize this very early on, because you just really need to make sure you have mats and you're ranking up your skill. And then keen eye, I would prioritize last. This is not something that you need. Most of the time, you're not going to go searching for material nodes. So there's going to be nodes in the world that you can mine or pick or whatever, that's going to give you raw materials of this skill. This just helps you see it closer or farther away. I would not prioritize this just because it's not something that's necessary, because a lot of times you're just going to get so many materials from extracting materials from deconstruction. And I'm telling you, you're not going to have an issue with that. So this is something I would not waste points on early on. If you want to put it into it afterwards, fine. But early on, do not waste your points in keen eye. So this is the basics of each skill tree, these skills right here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the actual crafting interface, and I'm going to give you a tutorial on that. So we are going to use blacksmithing as an example, and then enchanting and alchemy we'll go into a little bit afterwards, because I want to show you a few different aspects to those things. So with blacksmithing, you have a create tab, which is, or sorry, not a create tab, a refine tab. This is where all of your raw mats will go. So things that you mine or harvest from the world, or things that you get from deconstructing items of that skill, you will have in this menu. You need a minimum of 10 of each material to make an ingot or refined material. So it's going to make 7 to 10 ingots when you have 10 of a raw material. This is all that really needs to be said here. This part of crafting is pretty self-explanatory in the Refine tab. Take all your raw materials. See, as you see, I have 3 here. I need 10 to make ingots of whatever this is. So right here, I have Viridian dust. This will make ingots. So if I put that in, you'll see that this will make into some sort of usable ingot, right? So that's all that really needs to be said for this part of this section of the crafting tutorial. And woodworking and clothing are the same exact thing here. Same with jewelry crafting. You have to have 10 of each, okay? So we're going to go to the creation tab now. Now, in this is where you will create all of your gear and weapons for these specific skill lines. You will have the type at the top right here. Then you will have the material, then the style, and then the trait. Now, let's go into these a little more. The type is obviously just the type of weapon or armor you are crafting. So if you want to make an axe, you choose an axe, and etc. Now the material is going to show all ingots or refined materials that we just refined that you are capable of using. So in here, you see the materials. So the top skill line in each skill tree, so that metalworking that I was showing you before, that there's 10 possible upgrades, that's going to dictate what you can create here in this menu. See, I can create the max ingot, which is rubidite, but all these other ones are ingots that are underneath that level. See, you see the level ranges here, 16 to 24, 26 to 34, 36 to 44, 46 to 50, and then these are CP levels. So for example, if you never level up the skill in blacksmithing, like metalworking, you'll never be able to create anything above iron. And in turn, you'll never create anything above level 14. As you can see in the level range here, when I go to it, it says 1 to 14. So with the level range, what I mean by that is basically, depending on how many ingots or refined mats you use, it will determine the level of the item. So if I use 3 ingots on this axe, it will be level 1, as you can see this here in the preview screen. So each time I increase the amount of ingots, the higher the level. So if I go to 4 ingots, it's going to be level 4. The damage is going to go up, right? See that? Level 5 ingots is going to be level 6. 6 ingots is going to be level 8. 7 is going to be 10. 8 is going to be 12. 9 is going to be 14. That's the max level I can create with iron ingots with this axe. So that means it requires me, my character, to be level 14 to be able to use this axe. Not level 14 in blacksmithing, level 14 character level. That is what that means. But it has this range for every single ingot category. So when you go up in blacksmithing levels, that allows you to create higher ingots, which in turn, see here, dwarven ingot, 36 to 44. I use 10 ingots. I'm going to have a level 44 dwarven axe that requires me to be character level 44, and it's going to do more damage than the one at level 36, as you can see. And so when you get to the max tier of blacksmithing in the metalworking skill on the metalworking skill under blacksmithing, you can craft rubido ingots. And this is the thing I'm going to go into more in the advanced crafting guide. But when you get to the max crafting mat that you can for each skill, you're going to see that it has one number here, 11. And then if you increase that, it goes to 110. What that does is it increases it from champion point level 150 to champion point level 160. The reason this is significant is because champion point level 160 is the max gear score, basically, if you want to say, that items can drop at in ESO. So when you hit champion level 160, so right now I'm champion level 380, I think. When you hit champion level 160, every gear that drops for you in the world, like with bosses, anything you find, is going to be CP 160. That is the base of basically how you create your armor and your weapons. So when you're creating someone a set of armor or an axe or whatever you're trying to do, and they're above 160, they don't want a CP 150 item. They want a CP 160 item because that is the highest level that the item can be in the game, basically. And so it uses a ton of materials. And that's something that we will go further into and in the advanced crafting guide. But this is something to keep in mind here. So don't accidentally do that and then click it, because that's 110 ingots that just go away. So make sure when you do craft CP 160 gear that you know what you're doing. So that's something I want to explain to you guys in the advanced crafting guide. But I just wanted to bring that up for you. Now let's go to the style. This is where you get to be fashionable in the game. Styles are basically all the different types or looks of the weapons or armor you can create in the game. The basic crafting styles are all the 9 races of the game that you can play as. So Breton, Redguard, Orc, Dark Elf, Nord, Argonian, High Elf, Wood Elf, and Khajiit. All of these styles require a stone that corresponds to that style. So Khajiit would be a moonstone, as you can see here. Wood Elf are bones, as you can see here. Now you can find these in the world, or you can buy them from players, or buy them from the Crown Store, or just NPCs around the world. And in order to craft each one of these styles, you have to have consumed the motif for it. So motifs are just books that allow you to craft the given style of whatever the motif book is. So now there are tons of rare and different motifs in the game, and they are continually adding more. So this is just the basic ones, the basic 9 that are in the beginning parts of the game for the most part. And those motifs you can actually buy in the Crown Store, and you can buy them from players. They're actually really cheap. I believe they're blue rarity. So this is purely a cosmetic thing for a sense, but let's be honest, cosmetic stuff is very important in MMOs and in these type of games. Now, something to mention is they do have transmogs now in this game. So that's something that allows you to show any style of armor you want or weapon instead of the one you have equipped. These are popular in World of Warcraft and Diablo type of games, if that makes sense. So, for instance, the armor that I'm wearing right now is all transmogged, because I think this just looks cool. So a lot of times people will just transmog their outfit because they just want to wear like heavy armor pieces when they're not really wearing heavy armor, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. But the traits or the style is basically what style. See, if you look up here, when this axe, it's going to look differently. And that's cool. I mean, there's some really, really cool axes. Like that's a scythe. Like that's a freaking scythe. And that's awesome. So that's what styles are, and that's what these gems and stuff you get with them are. Now, lastly on the creation tab is the trait. Now, traits are what gives abilities on weapons or armor. So as you see, this is the powered trait for the axe, right? So powered increases healing done by 2.5%. These also require stones. These stones are all throughout the world, and you get them from deconstructing items and various other things like buying them from NPCs or whatever, but you're going to have a ton. I have a ton of them. So how do you unlock these traits? That's where I want to skip over to the research tab now, because this is very important to crafting, because I said that at the beginning of the guide. So we are going to skip over to the research tab right here. Remember, I said you should upgrade the research node of your skill lines as fast as you can, because it allows you to research up to 3 items at once. Now, to be able to craft items with specific traits, you have to have them researched first. And the first time you research a trait on an item, it will only take 1 hour of real time. But each trait after that is almost exponential, being that the 9th trait researched will take, I believe, approximately 25 to 30 days in real time, which is insane. That's almost a month. I mean, that is a month. So I'm not 100% on the last one. I'm pretty sure it's like 25 to 30 days, but I know it's over 20 something days. It takes real time. Now, they do have crafting boosters now that they sell on the Crown Store and that you can get from daily login rewards that will reduce your crafting research time to 1 day. So if you have an item that's at like 20 days, you can reduce it to 1, which is nice. So whenever you get the chance to pick those up, pick them up, because that is something that is huge for crafting and will get you to be able to be a master crafter as quick as possible. I believe there's like over 350 total traits to be researched on all items. And I think I have like 50 left. So I'm like really, really close, you could say. So I just have to keep grinding away at that. So this is very important. Like I said, I want to keep reiterating this. Always research items. So start doing this immediately. I will also note that it will consume your item that you research. So if it's something that you want to keep, don't consume it with research. So if you have an axe that has the charge trait, you will not get that axe back. It will go away. So I want you to know that ahead of time. Okay, so let's go to the Deconstruction tab. Deconstruction is pretty simple. You will have items that can be deconstructed that you pick up in the world. Certain ones will have intricate symbols like this one right here. This increases inspiration, which is XP for your skill. So always deconstruct these. Some will have the ornate skill. So you need to sell these because it's 288 gold versus 76 as you see here. So always sell these, but everything else, in my opinion, you should just deconstruct. You'll also get chances of getting trait gems, the ones we were just talking about, and style gems and rare materials. It'll also allow you to get resins, which is something I'm about to tell you about right now. Very high rarity resins. So definitely deconstruct everything that you have if you want to level up your crafting skill trees. Now, like I said, I just said the word resins. You're like, what are resins, Adam? You know, what does this mean? So this is the improvement tab. Each time you create, so for instance, each time you create an item, it will be a normal rarity item. When you craft in-game sets and gear for the people that you have that need sets from you or that ask you to create sets, you eventually want to improve their gear to highest rarity, especially if they are min-maxing, which means they want to get the maximum amount of yield from their weapons or gear out of whatever they can. So you will get these resins for each skill: blacksmithing, jewelry crafting, woodworking, and clothing. And if you upgrade the node in each skill tree, that was the one that I was telling you about that's sort of for the later game, this will give you a higher percentage of success when you use these resins. So I'm going to go through an example to show you what I mean, because it's kind of confusing. So we're going to basically go through creating an item, and I'll show you what the process is. So we're going to start off with an axe, all right? And I'm going to do a let's just do an iron axe, okay? So we'll do 3 ingots. We'll do a level 1 axe. We will do it in the, let's see, what's a cool style? I kind of like that. I kind of like this style, soul-shriven style, okay? And we'll give it the powered trait. We have the powered, this powered trait, right? So I'm going to create this item, okay? I created it. Now, like I said, every item is going to start off as a white item. See how it's, or sorry, yeah, so this is a white item. It will go into a green item, okay? In order to improve it to green, I have to use 2 honing stones to have a 100% chance. If I minus that one time, I have a 50% chance. If I didn't upgrade that skill in my skill tree that improves resin chance, I would have to use more honing stones to get this to 100%. I always use 100% whenever I'm upgrading because there's no point of having a chance of it not working and then destroying the item. So when I use it, it will improve it to a green. And as you see, when you improve it to a green item, you're going to have more damage and everything. So like this axe right now is doing 204 damage, right? When I improve it, it's going to improve the trait powered, and it's also going to improve the damage. So when I go to blue, it's going to go from 204 to 239, and instead of 3% healing done, it's going to be 3.5. But see, now I have to use dwarven oil to go to blue, and it's using more resins. So we're going to do that. We're going to accept, and we're going to have a blue iron axe. Okay, now we're going to go to purple. I'm actually not going to do purple because I kind of want to save these. When you get into the purple materials and when you get into the yellow materials, they can be very pricey. The yellow materials, the resins for that are yellow, they're somewhere sometimes between 4 to 10K, I believe, a resin. So they are very expensive, and you have to use like I think 5 or 6 for 100%. So this is just showing you an example of what improving does, and it's very important in the later parts of the game when you're creating max sets for people, because they are going to need the highest, especially for people that are wanting the max armor and damage they can do. They're going to want yellow, because yellow is what is going to give them the highest yield or DPS or whatever they're looking for. So that is basically what improvement is. Now, the last thing on the menu I want to show you is diagrams. These are something, I'm not going to go over this a lot. It's just going to be very brief, obviously, but this is for housing. You'll find diagrams for all these skills that you can consume, kind of like motifs and recipes for cooking and provisioning and everything. These are things that take materials, as you can see, ingredients, and they just create items in your house. So like I have a Daedric pedestal ritual, which is actually really cool, and I didn't even realize I had that. But there's a lot of different things here that you can create under each skill. So that's what diagrams are. If you were confused by that, I just wanted to go over that briefly for you. Now let's head over to clothing real quick. This is something I want to mention here very briefly. Clothing, again, is the same as blacksmithing and all of that. But the difference, the difference that you're going to see in clothing is there's 2 types of clothing, because there's medium armor and light armor. So when you go to creation, you're going to have all your light armor stuff, and then it stops right at the jack. So this is all going to be using different materials, ancestor silk, and then when you get to medium armor, it's going to use rubido leather. So just keep that in mind, that clothing, that's how clothing is. So I wanted to just tell you guys that as well. So I want to go over to alchemy a little. In this guide, it's a little different from the other skills, as you can see in the menu. You have solvents and you have regents. So this is a solvent. Solvents are what will make, like, basically the liquid. You can use 1 solvent per potions. So these will make like level 30 poisons, and this will make like a level 10 potion. So you click that, right, and you put it in the solvent slot. Regents are the materials that go into potions, and the higher you actually upgrade your alchemy, the more regents you can use in a potion. I have not leveled up alchemy as much. I'm starting to now, because it wasn't something that I was really focusing on that much, because I didn't really want to be a master alchemist, I guess you could say. But now I can put 3 regents in potions. And so when you first get regents, they're going to have unknown traits. As you can see here, it says like unknown, because like you haven't used them yet. Like right here, this is a 4 unknown thing. Until you use it or try it in a potion, you won't discover what traits it has. And so when you put certain potions together, some will end up having red outlines around them because they don't go together. If they have a red outline, that means the potion's going to fail. And so that's something that to keep in mind when you're making your potions in here. So if I do something with defile, they both have defile, you'll see it has like a white or blue outline. That's going to make it a success. Not that the other ones won't be a success, but it actually makes it a little stronger. So basically you want to try to match up these symbols. But something that really, really does help with alchemy is the potion maker add-on. If you have PC, this will show you basically what you need for each potion. So that's a really nice add-on. Now, if you're not on PC, then you just need to kind of experiment with your materials and see what traits they have when you use them. And I'm actually going to make an advanced alchemy guide that's separate from crafting, because alchemy is something that I think people don't really go into because they don't really understand it. So I will make one that can help you guys out a little better with that. So just try to always match up the traits if you can. Try not to have any red traits, but you do need to figure out what the traits are on each of your regions. And lastly, let's go over enchanting. Enchanting, again, is a little different, but not too hard to understand once you grasp it. In enchanting, you have potency runes, essence runes, and aspect runes. Potency, essence, and aspect right here. Again, with potency and essence runes, you will have to make it into a glyph before learning what it does. So you see here it says like strengthen or whatever. When you have a rune that it doesn't know the trait of it, basically it's going to have like question marks, or it's going to say unknown. So you have to put it in a glyph first to see what it's going to do or what it's going to be. Once you do, potency runes dictate the different levels of the rune that the runes are at. So which armor or weapon requirements it takes to slot it. So for instance, if you see a number next to it, the higher the number, the higher armor requirement it is. So like you see that like this is potency improvement 5, potency improvement 3, potency improvement 5, improvement 10. The highest is 10, and basically that means this is going to slot into a CP 160 piece of armor. So I'm going to put that in the slot here for you to see that. So essence runes are the type of glyph that you're making. So like the trait that you're going to get from it. So as you see here, there's frost, stamina, stamina regen, armor, disease, shield, spell harm. So we're going to choose this frost one, and we're going to put that in the second slot here. And then the aspect is basically the rarity or the strength of the effect of the glyph. So for instance, if you put Ta here, so look, we're going to put the basic aspect rune. It's going to be a truly superb glyph of frost resist. It's going to add 2,708 frost resistance. It's going to be a CP 160 glyph. Okay, if I go to Jojota, it's going to be 2857 frost resistance. If I go to Donata, it's going to be 3095 frost resistance. If I go to Rakuta, 3250 frost resistance. And Kuda is going to be the highest, which is 3,520 frost resistance. So this dictates the effect strength of the gem. Essence rune dictates what type of ability it's going to be, is if it's going to be frost, stamina, magicka, fire, blah blah blah, all that, right? And then potency again is going to increase. It's going to decide the level here that it needs to be on armor, and it's going to decide what type of glyph it is. So this is a jewelry glyph. So if I change Itade to divest, I now have a smaller gem, because this one is a weaker level 10. It's a minimum 150 gem, right? But it's still a jewelry glyph. But let's say I do Kude. It's still a jewelry glyph, you see, but it's weaker because again, it's potency improvement 9. Now let's see if I have Regira. Okay, Regira changes it to a weapon glyph. Still minimum of 150. It's not one of the highest glyphs you can have, because the highest glyph you can have is 160, but it is a weapon glyph versus a jewelry glyph. So now this is going to be for a weapon, and the weapon is then going to deal 2,314 frost damage. So that is a brief explanation of what Enchanting is and what basically the basics of that. This is something again that I'm going to go into more into my advanced crafting guide, because again, I can't go over everything in this guide when it comes to that. Now, one of the last big things I want to mention are writs. Okay, these are daily quests that you can get and do every 24 hours. These will give gold and good experience and mats. They also sometimes give surveys, which have plentiful resource locations, and treasure maps, which have some decent stuff in them too. So basically, when you get to level 50 in your respective skill trees, you can do master writs. Master writs are writs that have a chance of dropping from your normal level 50 writs. So your writs aren't going to necessarily change, like your writs. So for instance, if I go here to the board for equipment, if I choose a clothier writ and my blacksmith writ and a woodworking writ, my woodworking writ is crafting normal ruby ash inferno staff, normal ruby ash ice staff, normal ruby ash lightning staff. Those are normal level 50 writs. But if you're level 50, when you turn them into the box, so I'm going to show you that right now. So when you complete your level 50 writs, you'll turn them into these boxes here. I don't have any writs that I've done yet. But normally you'll have these boxes that you turn them into. And in those boxes, you have a chance of receiving master writs when you're level 50. And as you see here, this is a sealed blacksmithing writ. This is a master writ. It says consume to start quest. I have to craft a rubidite battle axe with quality legendary. So that means I believe that's legendary yellow. I believe it is yellow. I get them mixed up because in MMOs they name things differently, but quality legendary, trait training, set, Shaladur's curse, style, Yukiden. So I have to have the style unlocked. I have to have the right set. I have to have the right trait researched. So it's pretty extensive. And this rewards 105 writ vouchers. And what writ vouchers are is you can come to this guy right here. And this is the Master Craft Mediator. You can spend your writ vouchers to get certain things for your house. You can get alchemy stations, attunable blacksmithing stations that can be turned into sets. You can get motifs. You can get like all sorts of things from this dude by getting this. Like this is a transmuting station, which allows you to change the traits on your items, which is huge. But you can put all these in your house, right? You can also sell master writs to other players, I believe, if they're not opened. And I think they go for a pretty good price. But I have around 6 right now. You can have any number of amount of them in your inventory. So that is something and a huge incentive to do writs because they give you really awesome rewards and things that are used for crafting that you can put in your house so you don't have to travel all over the map to do certain things for crafting. So some of those things like transmuting and the crafting set tables, I'm going to go into again more extensively in my advanced guide. Now you might be wondering, I said armor sets and you're kind of curious about that. And you may see people with crafted armor sets that have set bonuses. So again, this is something I want to cover more in detail for the advanced guide, but I want to go over it a little bit right now before we end this video. So eventually your road to become a master crafter, you're going to get to the point where you can craft armor or weapon sets that are for some pretty big meta builds or that some people need for their, DPS build or healing build or tank build. And not all the crafting sets are meta or best in slot, but there are some that many people will pay top dollar for someone to craft for them. Mainly because it takes a decent amount of traits researched and quite a bit of mats and resins to do this. So if you look on the map, any icon that you see, and I kind of go over what this is in the beginner guide a little bit too, but basically if you go like right here, no, do not fast travel. If you go into green shade and you see this right here, this symbol is a crafting set bench. So these are all over the world. If you go into them, they're going to have a specific set that you can craft for certain armors, right? These require you to have a specific amount of traits researched on those items before you can even craft a single item of that set. That's why I told you that researching traits are so important. I don't know which set this is, but it may have 6 traits that you have to have research on an item before you can craft something. So that's why, again, it's so important to research. So always research. I can't say it enough. But this is something I want to go into more in the advanced crafting guide. It's a whole nother beast to go over. So we will cover that in another video. So everyone, that is all I want to bring to you today regarding starting your crafting journey, becoming a master crafter, and starting off. There's so much more, like I said, I could go into. And if you're interested in becoming a master crafter, stay tuned and look out for my master crafting guide and a more advanced alchemy guide. I hope that this video has been a help to you guys because this is a thing in ESO that is very confusing. I think if you're new, if you don't have some help understanding it, but I appreciate everyone's time in getting to this point, and I hope that it has really, really helped you. And if you want to watch me play ESO, I stream Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/BraviGotThis. And if you want to stay up to date in the channel, make sure to subscribe and let me know how I did. You guys are awesome, and I love making content for this community. If you want to join my clan and game, I can always help you there too, because I love helping people out in this game. But until next time, just remember to have faith, be great, and I'll see you guys later.